According to a 2021 study conducted by UC Berkeley, it found that 72% of entrepreneurs self-reported an increase in mental health concerns. The study uncovered that entrepreneurs were significantly more likely to report a lifetime of depression at a clip of 30%. ADHD at 29%, substance abuse issues came in at 12%, and bipolar disorder rounded out the list at 11%. Greg Wieting self-describes himself as a healer who helps entrepreneurs and leaders heal from their anxiety and depression, or chronic pain and trauma they can't think or talk their way out of. He is the founder of Prisma, a framework overlaying trauma, neuroscience, and energy medicine with somatic and mindful-based practices. He developed this while also healing from his own depression, anxiety, and chronic pain, which was rooted in trauma. This also included discovering a severe spinal curvature, which causes him today to stand 3 inches taller. He joined me this week to discuss mental health, overcoming depression, anxiety, and chronic pain, and how to develop a mindset to thrive once you've overcome those obstacles. I'm Kevin McShann. Let's have this conversation. I'll take a moment to welcome you to the program, and I'm super excited to learn about how you help entrepreneurs and leaders overcome some obstacles this morning. Great to see you, and thank you so very much for being here, buddy.
Thanks for having me, Kevin.
Absolutely. Now, Greg, I know that you work with entrepreneurs and leaders to help them deal with their depression and anxiety. So I'm wondering if you can tell me all about the great work that you do, buddy.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of entrepreneurs and leaders find me after they've kind of just hit a wall where they've built up a lot of, they've built up their platform, they've built up their community, they've built up their, business, their company. But they realize they're kind of hitting this wall of emptiness, that perhaps some of the success they've built has been driven more by the trauma response. So they're kind of finding that anxiety, that overwhelm, that emptiness, that burnout. So they're just, looking to get to the bottom of that. And it's often some unresolved trauma. And so really helping people stop leading from a trauma response so they can, just show up more authentically as themselves. And so, I like the idea of it's not what we do, but how we do it and who we are that really informs how we lead.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the ways you help people is, I know that you're the founder of Prisma, buddy, a framework that you created that deals with trauma, neuroscience, and energy medicine. So tell me about Prisma and what it's all about.
Yeah, I really developed Prisma to help myself heal. So if you met me 25 years ago, I was struggling with anxiety, depression, and chronic pain. I had a severe curve in my spine. And I just found a lot of traditional approaches to healing and therapy were really ill-equipped to address how trauma was kind of stored in my body and impacting me mentally, physically, emotionally. And so I started to kind of piece together all of these different teachings, all of these different wisdoms and practices, and kind of by accident, kind of wove them all together, and found that, that created something really practical and accessible for not only myself, but for others to kind of heal the trauma that they've not been able to think or talk their way out of. And so, yeah, it's been a great gift to now share that with others.
Yeah, absolutely. And tell me, Greg, I'm curious to get your perspective on the word and concept of perseverance. When you think of perseverance, what do you think of, buddy?
Yeah, great question. I think the lie of trauma is that we can't. And I think the truth of healing is that we can. And so, I think the mind training that is at the heart of healing is kind of orienting to a field of possibility. And so, yeah, I think perseverance is a field of possibility. And I think the essence of healing is really deriving meaning and significance from even the most adverse experiences in our lives, and how that can fuel a sense of wisdom and a deep knowing of self.
And Greg, tell me, you touched on this in your previous answer a little bit, but how does your personal journey affect the work that you do today?
I mean, for me, I think I want to normalize mental health in our world. I think there's so much stigma around mental health. So me sharing my own journey with, those I work with, my students, my clients, just helps to normalize it. And what if anxiety and depression are actually a healthy response to an unhealthy and pathological world? And so when I share my story, it just helps even the playing field. So we're just fellow travelers in a challenging world, but that can help us feel less alone in what otherwise might have us feeling pretty isolated and alone.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that you've worked at this for almost 2 decades now, and you've developed a course that you've certified hundreds of people in about your own methodology. And tell me about creating the community and the healing and practical approach that you take to the whole endeavor there, buddy.
Yeah, absolutely. So I look at, Prisma, which is the healing system I developed, is really an owner's manual to mental, emotional, and spiritual health. And so an 8-module online course is kind of the roadmap that we all need so we can kind of traverse, this challenging world with, a map in hand. So we're not navigating it blindfolded. And then I offer a Slack community, which is a curated community for people to kind of be held and supported and witnessed and ask questions and get direct feedback on their healing journey. So that's kind of the travel companions, because we can't, do this thing called life alone. And then we offer guided meditations and somatic practices. So people kind of are, having live support over 9 months for the mind training to really orient the mind to possibility and away from pain. And then the energy medicine component is really the right vehicle to help people heal kind of beyond what we can think and talk our way out of. And so all of those components kind of are provided through an online community over 9 months that just makes healing really accessible, practical, and really relevant. Trying to demystify it and just make it, real for folks.
Yeah, and to that point, I know, Greg, you do a whole lot of work around the concept of acceptance of all people. So tell me about how you view the word acceptance when it comes to integrating people within societal life in all aspects of it.
Yeah, with Prisma, we just have a commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion. And so we've done a lot of work over the last 5 years to just really honor the lived experiences of all identities and understand that in the world we live in, the identity we hold definitely has an impact on our lived experience. And so really creating space to recognize and honor that, and then support people in their unique lived experience based on their identity.
And tell me, when you look at sort of creating your own voice or presence of impact, what do you think that looks like for you personally when we talk about impacting others and impacting yourself as well?
Yeah, impact is actually one of the pillars of Prisma. And, I look at impact as, a form of intrinsic motivation. I think in our world, we're so motivated extrinsically for, the recognition, for the salary, for all these external factors. And I look at, the most authentic form of impact is what is intrinsically motivated. And it comes from a deeper place of being. And from that place, I think we can be really a healing force for good in the world. And so that's my take on impact, that, we can mine the gold of unresolved trauma, and that can help us kind of transform pain into purpose.
And, Greg, for anyone that's watching or listening to this, we all process depression and anxiety differently. So I'm wondering if you would have any words of wisdom for anyone that's looking to sort of persevere through their journey with depression and anxiety, and how they can look at it as a learning experience while also healing from it as well.
Yeah. I think there's no silver bullet, and there's no one right or wrong way. So, that's for me what led to the development of Prisma, was trying on lots of different tools, lots of different strategies, lots of different practices. Some fit, some didn't. So to not give up hope or be disheartened when something doesn't work, and meet you where you're at, to keep looking. And yeah, one of my students years ago just talked about kind of following breadcrumbs. And so kind of trusting in the path, and that healing is a non-linear journey. But you can't go it alone, really kind of resourcing a sense of support and community. So you're, so you feel like a sense of a community having your back. Well, I think oftentimes, trauma is organized around feeling isolated and alone in historically overwhelming experiences. And so it can leave us kind of embedded in an idea that, excuse me, we can figure it out on our own. And I think that's a fallacy. And, trying to fight our way and muscle our way through life on our own is a trauma response unto itself. And so finding the right support and developing new support systems that we can, that can meet us where we're at. And so not forging the path alone.
Yeah, absolutely. And, Greg, I'm also curious to ask you about the concept of empowerment in terms of building it from a place of strength and really building your self-confidence. So when we talk about empowerment, what do you think of, Bonnie?
Yeah, I kind of, a lot of the work I do is kind of a rewrite around power, because especially when there's trauma involved, there's usually been some power dynamics that have been kind of manipulated or distorted. And so, I look at rewriting a narrative around power that is generative and life-giving. And so I think in our culture, we often see power as power over, and these power struggles, these conflicts around power. So what if power can be a generative force that creates continuity and connection, that creates cohesion? And so, yeah, I think empowerment, is not singular. I think it's relational, and how we find power in community, power in relationship, power with others, not over others. And I look at a lot of that through the lens of healing is really compassion and acceptance. And so what if we kind of locate more power through kind of softening? I think culturally we think of power as hardening up, toughening up. And what if authentic power is a softening into self?
Yeah, absolutely. And Greg, I'm wondering your thoughts on the concept of leadership, healing, and empathy, and how those trio of things are interconnected.
emotional intelligence is really helping us put ourselves in other people's shoes. And so our ability to kind of hold space for the lived experience of others and build a bridge. And so I see leadership as an opportunity to usher in kind of a healing force for good. I think that's why I'm so compelled to work with leaders, is so we don't perpetuate cycles of harm through unresolved trauma, and so that we can create cycles of healing, repair. And again, so much of that is happening relationally. So instead of leadership being top down, what if leadership can be bottom up? What if it can be humanity centric? So yeah, I think empathy and compassion are just a place where we're just we're centering the human aspect.
And Greta, I'm curious to ask you about the concept of effective healing. Now, I know that it's different for all people, but I'm wondering if there are some general principles that are effective in terms of general healing for all people.
So, the 7 pillars that we work with in Prisma are nervous system regulation, which I think is kind of a foundational piece to kind of develop psychological safety, embodiment, helping us kind of develop enough presence within ourselves that, the sense of interoception brings us presence and agency. And then, the emotional attunement, our ability to, hold enough space to be present to the emotional experience of ourselves and others. So the power of human connection, orientation to values in a way that, we're not hustling and burning ourselves out to fulfill on our values, but we're orienting to our values in a way that's really life affirming. Narration is kind of updating the narrative. So our narratives are more life affirming and generative. And identity, helping to kind of refresh an identity that's not stagnant around oftentimes an insecure attachment, oftentimes trauma patterns that can have us have pretty a limiting, narrow, rigid sense of self. And so kind of expanding the aperture of, understanding around who we are. So just the practice of self-inquiry. And then I think all of that culminates in this sense of impact, becoming, our impact is really emanating from a state of being as opposed to the thing we do. It's the essence of who we are.
Yeah, absolutely. Greg, I was born with cerebral palsy. The form of cerebral palsy I have is called spastic quadriplegic cerebral palsy. And one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you was the idea of creating a more equitable future. I know that you work with marginalized groups to do the same. So I'm curious to ask you about creating a more equitable and inclusive future for marginalized groups and folks with disabilities. What do you think that looks like?
I can only speak to what that looks like, in my small sphere of influence. And so, accessibility is a big piece. And so I offer, scholarships to make sure that, finances aren't a barrier to entry to, tap into a community of heart and healing. But it's really also then understanding that, again, different identities have different lived experiences. So we all need different types of support to navigate this world. And so taking the time to really acknowledge and understand that, and then meet people where they're at. And so each of us where we're at is quite unique. So it's not a one size fits all cookie cutter approach. And so it's slowing down and pausing to acknowledge that, and to take the necessary steps to support people where they're at.
Yeah, absolutely. And Greg, my final question for you today has to do with if they made your life into a movie and they were attempting to depict your legacy, what do you think the main plot line of the movie would be, buddy? How do you want your legacy to be defined?
That's a great question. You know, I think my work is just to help people locate a sense of truth, power, and aliveness. And so I think the arc of that plot would be, you know, living with a bold and courageous heart. And I think that plot looks unique for each of us. And I think for me, that story is still unfolding. I think for me, this arc of, you know, my journey in supporting folks in healing is just kind of one arc of many. And so I think there's another story to be told. I used to joke years ago that once I, you know, reached a certain place in just resolving my own trauma and my own pain, that there'd be another arc to my story. And so I think there's another story to be told, to be continued.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we'll keep the casting call open for your movie, okay?
Appreciate it.
And Greg, tell me, if people want to get connected with the good work that you do, buddy, what's the most effective and efficient way they can do that?
Yeah, gregwieting.com. It's Wieting. So people can tap into that website to learn more about working with me one-on-one, or to dive into the Prisma course, or I guess prismamethod.com is all you need to know about that roadmap, and the pillars, which are kind of the drop pins on that map, the GPS, the guided meditations, and the vehicle, the energy medicine training. So prismamethod.com and gregwieting.com.
Yeah, absolutely. And just before we get out of here, buddy, I'm curious to finally ask you, what are 5 things you do to sort of get back within the center of yourself? I'm curious.
Yeah, well, yeah, energy medicine. So hands-on healing, Reiki is a big component. Mindfulness, meditation is a big component. For me, nutrition, sleep, exercise, time in nature. I might be over 5 now. And community, people, loved ones, you know, human connection. Yeah, time in nature. So those are my non-negotiables for sure.
Yeah, there's nothing like authentic human connection, right?
We can't, you know, we're social creatures. We're not designed to live alone.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Greg, I really appreciate some time with you this morning talking about the importance of overcoming depression, anxiety, and all the good work that you do to make sure that the world's just a little bit better of a place, buddy. Your time on my behalf and work in the space is most appreciated, and I want to thank you for being here today.
Thanks, Kevin. I really appreciate your time.